Ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret that separates the mediocre from the masters, the average from the elite, the wandering from the wealthy. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even intelligence, drastically excellence. Not once in a while greatness, not occasional brilliance, but a commitment to be excellent every single day, especially when no one is watching. Because hear me clearly, how you do anything is how you do everything. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. It's a spiritual decision, a mental discipline, and a physical practice. And today we're not just talking about success, we're talking about becoming the person who success chases. That's what happens when you master daily excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret that separates the mediocre from the masters, the average from the elite, the wandering from the wealthy. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even intelligence. The secret is this: daily excellence, not once in a while greatness, not occasional brilliance, but a commitment to be excellent every single day, especially when no one is watching. Because hear me clearly, how you do anything is how you do everything. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. It's a spiritual decision, a mental discipline, and a physical practice. And today, we're not just talking about success, we're talking about becoming the person who success chases. That's what happens when you master daily excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret that separates the mediocre from the masters, the average from the elite, the wandering from the wealthy. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even intelligence. The secret is this: daily excellence, not once in a while greatness, not occasional brilliance, but a commitment to be excellent every single day, especially when no one is watching. Because, hear me clearly, how you do anything is how you do everything. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit, it's a spiritual decision, a mental discipline, and a physical practice. And today, we're not just talking about success. We're talking about becoming the person who success chases. That's what happens when you master daily excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret that separates the mediocre from the masters, the average from the elite, the wandering from the wealthy. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even intelligence. The secret is this: daily excellence. Not once in a while greatness, not occasional brilliance, but a commitment to be excellent every single day, especially when no one is watching. Because, hear me clearly, how you do anything, excellence is not an act, it's a habit. It's a spiritual decision, a mental discipline, and a physical practice. And today, we're not just talking about success. We're talking about becoming the person whose success chases. That's what happens when you master daily excellence. Let's VV. Most people wake up each day and immediately enter survival mode. They don't make decisions, they react. They don't take command, they comply. They don't dominate the day. They participate in it like passive attendees at a seminar they never signed up for. But if you want to live a life of significance, if you want to build something that lasts beyond you, then you have to make a shift. You must decide to dominate, not just participate. Dominating doesn't mean aggression, arrogance, or selfish ambition. It means intentionality. It means you wake up with a target, a strategy, and a relentless desire to be the architect of your own outcomes. It's a spiritual and mental positioning where you say, I'm not letting this day happen to me, I'm going to happen to it. When people say they want to change their life, what they usually mean is they want better results, more money, more peace, more energy, more time, but they keep trying to achieve different outcomes with the same mindset and the same weak systems. That's why nothing changes. You cannot get elite level outcomes with average level thinking. This is why people don't rise to the level of their intentions. They fall to the level of their systems. You can have the best of intentions. You can have goals written in gold ink on the wall. But if your morning starts with scrolling your phone, hitting the snooze button 3 times, and reacting to emails, then you've already surrendered the day. Excellence doesn't start with a goal. It starts with structure. You need systems that support the standard you want to live at. And the first system to master is how you approach the day itself. Dominating the day begins before the sun even rises. It's the decision to take full ownership of your morning. Are you moving with purpose, or are you drifting in chaos? Most people spend more time planning their weekend than they do planning their morning. That's why their dreams stay dreams, because they never give their vision a daily assignment. To dominate your morning is to set the emotional, mental, and spiritual tone for the next 24 hours. And it doesn't stop there. You must dominate your mind. The battlefield is not in the bank account. It's not in your job title. It's not even in your external environment. The greatest war you'll fight is the one between your ears. Every time you choose procrastination over progress, fear over faith, or comfort over courage, you lose ground. And every time you choose discipline over distraction, identity over insecurity, and purpose over passivity, you gain ground. When you dominate your mind, your mission becomes clearer. That mission may be building a business, raising a family, writing a book, getting healthy, or leading a team. But the mission is irrelevant if the mindset behind it is weak. You can't fulfill a powerful mission with a powerless mindset. That's why dominating your internal world, your thoughts, your focus, your self-talk, isn't optional. It's necessary. Let me give you a clear example. There was a young man working at a corporate office, stuck in middle management, overlooked for years. Every time promotion season came, he was told, "You're doing well, just not stand out." He worked hard, but there was no edge, no presence, no momentum in his daily rhythm. One day after a leadership conference, he made a decision, a real one. He would no longer just show up to work. He would own the environment. He started waking up at 5:00 a.m. every day to study leadership, refine his communication, and pray for clarity and strength. He began dressing like the executive he wanted to become. He arrived at work early, engaged his team intentionally, and brought new ideas to the table weekly. Within 6 months, his energy shifted so dramatically that the VP pulled him aside and said, "You've become the kind of person this company can't afford to lose." Within the year, he was promoted. Not because he was lucky, not because someone handed it to him, but because he made the decision to dominate, not just exist. The key isn't to wait until life gets easier or you get a break. The key is to raise your standard and match it with daily action. What's keeping most people average isn't a lack of resources, it's a lack of resolve. They're stuck because they're still negotiating with their excuses. They're still trying to manage their life instead of leading it. When you decide to dominate, you stop waiting for the perfect time, you stop looking for permission, you stop blaming circumstances, you realize that the power to shift your life has been in your hands the entire time. It starts with a single decision, that you're no longer going to live like the world owes you something. You're going to live like you owe the world the best of you. That is what it means to master the art of daily excellence. That is what it means to own your day. Most people are chasing motivation like it's the missing ingredient to success. They wait for a spark, a good mood, a perfect day to finally take action on their goals. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It's a feeling, and feelings are fragile. They come and go like the weather. One moment you're fired up, the next you're flat. And if your life is built on motivation, then so is your success. Unstable, unpredictable, and inconsistent. That's why people start strong in January and quit by March. That's why dreams remain written in notebooks instead of lived in real time, because they depended on resolutions, not rituals. Rituals are different. Rituals are forces. They are non-negotiable systems that train your body, your mind, and your spirit to move in the direction of your purpose regardless of how you feel. Rituals are your way of saying, I am committed to the result no matter the resistance. They are the foundation upon which excellence is built. You don't wake up and suddenly become world class. You train your way into it with intentional daily action. When you look at high performers in any field, entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, leaders, you'll find different personalities, different backgrounds, different skills. But there's always one thing in common. They operate by rituals. They don't wait to feel ready. They act out of rhythm, not emotion. They have morning routines, study times, practice blocks, quiet hours, learning rituals, journaling disciplines, prayer times, or planning sessions, whatever aligns with their mission. And they do it every day, not when it's convenient. Just break that down. Say you want to become mentally sharp, emotionally grounded, and spiritually aligned. A resolution would sound like, this year, I'm going to become a better version of myself. That's a good thought, but it's weak. It has no framework, no daily demand, no system of accountability. But a ritual transforms that intention into action. A ritual says, every morning at 6 o'clock I sit in silence for 10 minutes, read 2 pages of wisdom, write down 3 priorities, and pray for strength. That daily action, repeated over weeks, then months, reshapes your identity. It builds power. It gives you an edge. That's what excellence is made of. Tiny, intentional steps repeated until they're automatic. This principle is simple, but not easy, because the enemy of ritual is comfort. And comfort always wants to negotiate. Comfort will say, you don't need to do it today, you're tired, you've been good, just this once, skip it. And every time you agree with that voice, your identity takes a hit. Not a huge one, but a slow, invisible erosion of your standard. On the other hand, every time you follow through on your ritual, even when it's uncomfortable, your identity rises. You begin to see yourself as disciplined, focused, and excellent, and that becomes your truth. Let me give you a real-world example. There was a young woman working in sales who could never quite hit her targets. She had talent, a good product, and even some charm, but her results were inconsistent. One month she was on fire, the next she was slipping. She blamed market conditions, client behavior, even her team. But deep down, she knew the issue was her inconsistency. She'd make calls when she felt good, skip prospecting when she didn't, and hope for momentum to carry her. One day, after missing quota for the 3rd quarter in a row, she decided to change not the strategy, but her standards. She created a ritual. Every day before checking emails or social media, she would spend 20 minutes reviewing her goals, visualizing the outcome, and then make 20 outbound calls, no matter what, rain or shine, good mood or bad. She turned it into a game, tracking it with a simple notebook. At first, it was hard. There were days she didn't want to speak to anyone, but she kept showing up. And within 90 days, not only had her numbers improved, her identity had transformed. She was no longer someone trying to succeed. She had become someone who does what it takes. Within 6 months, she was leading her division. The numbers followed the ritual, and the ritual followed the decision. That's the formula. You don't become excellent by hoping. You become excellent by training. Rituals are your training ground. They are the gym for your character, the battlefield for your consistency, the sculptor of your future. They will either multiply your value or diminish your destiny. Because here's the truth. You are always becoming something. Every day, you either reinforce who you want to be or who you're trying to avoid becoming. The difference isn't desire, it's discipline. And discipline is built through ritual. So if you're tired of the cycle, start, stop, stall, then it's time to build rituals that lock in your momentum. Identify the 3 to 5 actions that, if done daily, would move you closer to your purpose. Make them non-negotiable. Stack them in your mornings or evenings. Attach them to a vision so powerful it pulls you out of bed. And when it gets boring, keep going. When it gets hard, keep going. When you don't feel like it, keep going. Because in the end, you won't be remembered by the resolutions you made. You'll be remembered by the rituals you master. One of the most overlooked but most powerful forces in a person's life is the power of self-commitment. Most people believe that their word only matters when it's given to someone else. They believe that keeping promises is about integrity in business deals, loyalty in relationships, or follow-through in teamwork. But the truth is this: the most critical promises you will ever make, and the ones that shape your future the most, are the ones you make to yourself. And if you consistently break those inner vows, no external achievement will ever bring you peace. The road to daily excellence begins when you decide to honor what you commit to. Every time you say, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., and you hit snooze, it may not feel like a big deal. You tell yourself, it's just 10 more minutes. Or I deserve rest. Or I'll try again tomorrow. But what just happened in that moment isn't about a missed wake-up time. It's about identity. You told yourself you were going to do something, and then you didn't. You violated your own trust. And every time you do that, even in the smallest areas, your inner confidence takes a hit. Not publicly, but privately. In the places no one sees, your heart, your belief, your standard. And what's worse is that over time, this creates a subtle but dangerous pattern. You begin to question yourself. You begin to doubt your own words. You become someone who can talk a big game but doesn't follow through. And that quiet self-betrayal becomes a habit. You lose the internal alignment necessary for excellence, because hear this clearly, excellence is not about perfection, it's about consistency with character. What most people don't realize is that every decision you make either builds or breaks your character. It's not about what the world sees, it's about the invisible agreements you make with yourself. And if you can't keep your own word, why would anyone else believe in you? Why would a team follow you? Why would God entrust you with greater opportunities? You can't fake alignment. You either have it or you don't. And alignment starts with keeping the promises you make to you. Let's take a simple example. There was a young man who wanted to get in shape, not for vanity, but because he knew his energy and health were affecting his ability to show up fully in his business and his family. So he told himself, I will go to the gym 4 times a week no matter what. The first week he did. The second week he made excuses, meetings, fatigue, life. Before long he was back to his old pattern, starting and quitting, committing and compromising. But one day something shifted. He realized it wasn't about the gym. It was about the kind of man he was becoming. Was he going to be someone who could trust himself, or someone who always found a reason to fall short? So he made a new vow, but this time it wasn't emotional, it was intentional. He said, no matter what happens, even if I have to go at 10 p.m., even if I'm tired, I will keep this commitment. The gym was no longer optional, it became sacred. A daily act of honoring his word. Within 90 days, he not only transformed physically, but more importantly, he began to walk differently, talk differently, lead differently. People noticed, not just the result, but the weight of his presence. Because something powerful happens when a person lives in alignment with what they say. It creates gravity, influence, trust. And it starts with the smallest acts of integrity. See, the problem isn't that people don't want change. The problem is that they think change happens in the big dramatic moments. It doesn't. Change happens in the mundane decisions. When the alarm goes off, when the journal is empty, when the temptation comes, when no one is watching. That's where identity is built or broken. And when you treat your inner vows like contracts, with urgency, with respect, with honor, your life begins to take on a different momentum. Because when you say you're going to do something and you do it, you don't just build trust, you build power. Real power, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it's proven through action. And it's important to understand that honoring your commitments doesn't mean you'll be perfect. There will be moments you slip. That's human. But what matters most is how quickly you return to your standard. When excellence is your default, failure becomes a detour, not a destination. You no longer wallow in shame or excuse. You reset, you recommit, and you keep walking. Your destiny is shaped not by what you hope to become, but by what you consistently do. And the people who rise, who lead, who inspire, who succeed at the highest levels are not those who shout the loudest. They're the ones who keep their word, especially when no one is clapping, especially when it's hard, especially when it doesn't look like it's working yet. So the question is simple. When you speak to yourself, does it mean something? Does your word carry weight in your own ears? Or has your word become just another broken promise? If you want to master daily excellence, begin by making smaller promises and keeping every single one. That's how you build character. That's how you build trust. And that's how you build a life that commands respect, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Honor what you commit to. That's where your power begins. Most people never reach their potential because they're stuck chasing an illusion, perfection. They think excellence means flawless execution, never missing a step, never making a mistake. So the moment they slip, they stop. The moment they fall short, they feel disqualified. But the truth is, daily excellence isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress. It's about growing, even if just 1% every single day, because it's not the absence of mistakes that makes you great. It's the presence of movement, momentum, and mastery over time. See, perfection is a trap. It whispers lies that sound like truth. If it's not 100%, it's not worth doing. You messed up, so why keep going? Other people are doing it better, so what's the point? That mindset kills more dreams than failure ever could. Perfection doesn't push you forward, it paralyzes you. Because perfection demands a standard that isn't even real. No champion, no leader, no master craftsman ever became elite by being perfect. They became elite by compounding progress over time. One rep at a time, one choice at a time, one better day at a time. Progress, on the other hand, is real. It's measurable. It builds. And it gives you permission to improve without shame. When you focus on progress, you shift your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must get it all right now, and you become someone who is committed to growth, no matter how slow or messy that growth looks. That shift changes everything. Because now the gym session where you barely got through still counts. The writing session that produced one good paragraph still matters. The difficult conversation you navigated with a little more grace than last time. It's all part of the process. Progress builds resilience. When you know you're not trying to be perfect but to be better, failure loses its sting. A mistake becomes a lesson, a delay becomes preparation, and a weakness becomes a place for intentional development. You stop quitting when you fall short and start asking better questions. What did I learn? How can I improve next time? What's my next step? And with that mindset, nothing is wasted, not even the hard days. Let's take a practical example. There was a young man learning to play piano. He had always wanted to learn, but every time he tried, he gave up. Why? Because he'd compare himself to concert pianists online. He'd practice for an hour, then watch a video of someone performing flawlessly and immediately feel discouraged. I'll never be that good, he thought. But one day, his teacher gave him a different perspective. She said, stop trying to be a pianist. Just try to play 5 minutes better than you did yesterday. That clicked. From then on, his goal wasn't perfection. His goal was progress, to hit one more right note, to stay focused for one more minute, to play with a little more emotion. Over the months, something amazing happened. He didn't just get better, he became committed. His progress multiplied because his mindset matured. Today he plays confidently, not because he's perfect, but because he embraced the process of becoming. That's how it works. You build your confidence not by achieving everything, but by sticking with something long enough that it grows under your care. And when you commit to showing up with purpose every day, even when it's not perfect, you start to experience what most people never will, the compound effect of consistency. Think of compound interest in finance. It's not the one-time deposit that makes you wealthy. It's the repeated investment multiplied over time that builds abundance. The same is true in your habits, your leadership, your health, your calling. A workout done daily, even if short, beats the occasional perfect workout. Reading 1 page a day beats the person who buys books but never opens them. Speaking kindly once a day, even when you're tired, changes the atmosphere of your home more than lofty promises of being more loving someday. And when you focus on progress, not perfection, you learn to celebrate small wins. That celebration reinforces behavior. It gives your brain a reward, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. You start to want to show up daily, not because it's always exciting, but because you see the vision unfolding. Slowly, surely, and steadily. This is why chasing eternal transformation instead of instant gratification is the mark of maturity. Anyone can be excited in the beginning. Anyone can commit when the outcome is easy to see. But champions are built in the trenches, in the hidden hours, in the uncelebrated moments when no one is watching and there's no applause. They're built in the repetition, in the choice to keep going, in the faith that today's progress, no matter how small, is laying the foundation for tomorrow's breakthrough. So wherever you are today, whether you feel behind, stuck, uncertain, or inconsistent, remember this: you don't have to be perfect to move forward. You just have to be faithful to the next step. Mastering daily excellence doesn't mean you never fall. It means you fall forward. It means you learn, adjust, and grow. Because the goal isn't to arrive fully formed. The goal is to become the kind of person who never stops becoming. Focus on progress. The perfection will never come, but the transformation will. Most people go through life chasing outcomes that are too small to truly move them. They show up to work for a paycheck. They build habits to look good, not to become good. They start businesses just to make money, not to make a mark. And because their reasons are small, their effort is inconsistent. The fire burns out quickly when the reason you're doing something is weak. That's why some people never stay motivated, because they're not connected to anything bigger than themselves. If your daily actions aren't tied to a deeper purpose, then your discipline will eventually collapse. But when your mission is higher than your mood, your commitment becomes unshakable. Excellence at its highest level is never about performance for its own sake. It's about purpose. It's about becoming a vessel for something eternal. It's about understanding that you're not just working to build a career, you're building a legacy. You're not just showing up for the next sale, the next task, or the next win. You're showing up to represent a standard, to serve a calling, to become someone that future generations can point to and say, because they didn't quit, I didn't either. That kind of vision doesn't just motivate, it transforms. Most people ask, what do I need to do today? But the better question is, why do I need to do it? When your why is big enough, the work doesn't have to be easy. You'll do hard things. You'll embrace the process. And you'll get back up when others quit, not because you're stronger, but because you're anchored. Purpose gives you staying power. It allows you to push through boredom, fatigue, criticism, and delay. Purpose gives pain a direction. It transforms sacrifice into investment. But here's the truth. Finding that purpose doesn't come from scrolling, comparing, or waiting for a lightning bolt. It comes from asking yourself the deeper questions. Who needs me to win? What kind of example am I setting for my children, my team, my future self? What will my life speak when I'm no longer here to speak it? When you begin to think from the lens of eternity instead of immediacy, your decisions sharp, the standards rise. You stop compromising for convenience, and you start moving with conviction. A perfect example of this is a man who worked a regular job, lived in a quiet neighborhood, and wasn't known by the world. But every morning he woke up early, made a pot of coffee, and wrote for 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes a day. He wasn't famous. He wasn't even trying to get published at first. He just knew there were things inside of him that had to come out, things his kids needed to read one day, ideas he wanted to leave behind. After a few years, he had written several full-length manuscripts. Not perfect, but powerful. Eventually, one of his books caught the attention of a small publisher. Years later, he became a best-selling author, not because he chased fame, but because he pursued purpose with daily discipline. What's remarkable isn't the success, it's the mindset. This man didn't write because he felt like it every day. He wrote because he had attached his actions to a higher calling. It wasn't about income, it was about impact. He saw himself as a steward of the gifts inside him, and he refused to bury them out of fear or laziness. That's what legacy-minded people do. They don't wait to be discovered. They show up daily because they understand they were born to deliver something that the world needs. When your actions are connected to something greater than your comfort, they carry a different energy. You move from routine to ritual. You move from discipline to devotion. And people can feel that difference. It shows in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you build, how you respond under pressure. You stop acting like you're working a job and start moving like you're fulfilling an assignment. That shift is the difference between average and unstoppable. There will be days when the work feels small, when no one claps, when the progress is slow. That's when most people drop off, because applause was their fuel. But when purpose is your fuel, silence doesn't stop you. Delay doesn't distract you. You understand that seeds take time to grow, and you keep showing up because the mission is bigger than the moment. So ask yourself, what are you really building? Is it something that ends with you or something that outlives you? Are you showing up just to get through the day, or are you showing up to change what your last name means? Because your life is a message, and whether you know it or not, someone is reading it. The way you lead, love, serve, and sacrifice is shaping the environment for someone else. You weren't born to be average. You weren't born just to survive. You were born to build, to lead, to impact, and to do it with excellence. That kind of life doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you attach every action, every early morning, every late night, every phone call, every workout, every moment of prayer, every tough decision to a higher calling. Excellence becomes sustainable when it's tied to legacy, when it's about purpose, when it's about impact. Stop working for income and start moving for outcome. Anchor your life to something eternal, and you'll find the strength to keep going when most people stop. You'll stop trying to escape pressure, and you'll start using it to grow. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just success. The goal is to become someone who lived with such purpose that everything around you changed because you were in it. I want you to remember something as you walk out of this room, as you close this tab, as you return to your regular routine. The world does not need another talented person. It needs a committed one. Someone who shows up, grows up, and doesn't give up every single day. That can be you. That must be you. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect timing. Start mastering the art of daily excellence today. Because if you can win the day, you can win the week. If you can win the week, you can win the year. And if you can win the year, you will win your destiny. The standard is excellence. The power is within you. The time is now. Thank you.